when you're ready to go.
Okay, we should be live, Your Honor.
Honor.
I mean,
okay.
sorry, worship.
Funny.
Your worship.
Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you very much. All right, committee members, we'll get started with the Clearview Economic Development Committee Advisory Committee meeting. I see we have John, our staff member here, and Jen is taking notes, so thank you very much. We do have a pretty simple, straightforward agenda. I guess we've got a couple of members that are going to either try to join us or some that have sent their regrets. And so we'll just carry on with the meeting, and we'll hope that those that are going to join us later can still join in. All right, committee, let's get started. We'll ask for a declaration of a disqualifying interest or general nature thereof. Has anybody got any disqualifications or qualifications? I don't think so. All good. So we'll go with approval of the agenda. Anybody got anything you want to add to the agenda? Anything? Yes. Oh, hi, Heather. Go ahead.
Sorry, I got questions here. With the agenda, happy to approve. I like the items there, but just wondering about number 8 and number 9 on the agenda there. Future.
Yes.
Those are events that have already passed, correct? Or started?
That's correct. Yep, they have already started and already passed. And
so that more kind of like information versus a agenda item.
Correct.
Yeah, and oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jen. Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead,
I was
Jen.
just going to say, I believe the link actually takes you to a recording, from what I understand. So this was on our previous agenda, so that's why I left it on there. But the link should take us to a recording.
Okay, so if you wanted to review the recording and see some of the information available, Heather, it's on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as it being an agenda, I mean, it's going to be a quick run through, right? Because it's not really, there's nothing more to discuss on it because it's already started. It's more of information. Okay, cool.
You know, one of the things about economic development, right, is that many of these items are things that are happening that might not be of interest to anybody's business. So we try to put all the items in here so that everybody has a chance to take a look at them. And if there's anything that gets your attention, bring it up and ask questions. Otherwise, we'll just carry on. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, good question. I'm glad you brought it forward. So Heather's going to approve the agenda, and I'll ask for a seconder. That'd be Barry Burton. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Is there anything, or yeah, let's go to the approval of the minutes. Recommendation be it resolved from the Economic Development Advisory Committee, approve the minutes from September the 7th. Wow, 2021 as presented. If anybody recalls, that was quite a meeting where we had to leave in this rainstorm in a hurry there, Judith. That was something, wasn't it? Do you want to approve the minutes there, Judith?
Sure.
Okay, we'll go with Judith. And Bill, are you good with seconding that? Yep. Great. Okay, so we'll call that. All those in favor? Thank you. So that carries also. Is there any business from the minutes? Anybody want to bring up any business from the minutes? If I may, Mr. Ferguson, I'd like to bring your attention to the last little motion that we had on here underneath new business. I know we did discuss it quickly at that meeting, John, because we all had to leave with the weather. But it was about the motel study. So I wondered if we could get some work done on that for the next meeting, that we could have a quick discussion about what we're going to do there. I know that Miss White isn't with us here right now, who really led that, but maybe between now and then, John, we could get a little bit of an update on where we stand on that. Is that okay? All right, thanks very much. So that's my only business from the minutes. Anybody else? Okay. There's no financial report at this time. We haven't really been spending any money, unless, John, you know of anything. No? You're okay. Keep us up to date. And again, item 8 and item 9 are two items that are just sort of carryover, so that make sure the information is available. The presentation about future of food is online, and it's something to take a look at if anybody's interested. The regional partners on the farm to retail workshop for local growers, that's also on there, and there's some information there if anybody's interested. The applications are still open, so you can take a look at that. The other one that I put on the agenda is this Fast and Efficient Ontario Business Registries coming. So the province of Ontario made an announcement about that, and I thought it was kind of interesting that they're actually going to go back to the whole business registry program, which was something that was around in the 70s, 80s, I think it was. That was when that first started. So anyway, they're replacing that technology, so that information's there as well. If anybody wants to take a look at that, they wanted to make sure that they're up to date. All right, so I'll go right to new business. Has anybody got anything that they want to bring forward as new business or any business item? Yes, Barry. Hi, Barry. Go ahead.
Yes, if you recall, at the last meeting, I reported that the NEC had approved the Lavender Farm on the 8th line, and that was going to move forward. And since then, I just thought I'd advise everybody that there's been 4 appeals filed against that at the NEC. So it'll likely be up. I don't know if it'll be at the next NEC meeting or not until the new year. But there has been 4 appeals. Surprised me a little because it was pretty sufficient. Although staff didn't recommend the original approval, it was like a 9-4 vote in favor. So it was a fairly substantial win. So, but anyways, there's some people who just don't want to see a lavender farm in Clearview. So
I don't understand that, because there already is one, right?
yeah,
There's 2. There's 2.
Yeah.
There's one in Ottawa and there's one up above south of Creedmoor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a committee, like, what's the general feel in this group?
Oh, I support it 100%.
Yeah.
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 I support it too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's on farm diversified use, which is and this was a very interesting case because on farm diversified use is permitted within the Niagara Escarpment, provided that your land designation for agricultural is 1, 2, or 3, and if you're 4 or 5 or 6, or whether it's ABC, I can't remember. But anyways, if you don't classify as prime agricultural and just agriculture, then you're not allowed to have a farm diversified use. So it's kind of a crazy thing, and because his land designation was not prime agricultural, that's why staff didn't support it. Staff recommended that it not get approved. But the owner went and hired his own geologist and had his soil tested to prove that, in fact, he was prime agricultural land. So I conversed with the county about that, and the county said, well, it's simple. It's just, they do it in the past, which is something he's going to have to do now, is get an exemption from his land designation. You just get an exemption from it, and then that rule sort of goes away. So
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with in the appeals.
Yeah. Heather, did you have something you were going to say? I wasn't sure. You leaned right in there. So.
No, I'm on my phone, so it's really awkward.
Okay.
No, but I think I would be in favor of that too, because, like Judith was saying as well, it's not doing anything against the businesses here, and it's supporting and keeping people here longer in Clearview Township, and reason to spend more time and spend more money, which is what we're here for too, right?
I agree. Yeah, it's a very good point you bring up, and that's the thing about business, is that one business supports the next business. It's called commerce, right? So that's how it's supposed to work.
And I
certainly.
think competition, but like you could create lavender tours and you hit each farm and stuff like that. So
sure, and that of course spreads out the number of people at any one farm at any one time. So
we just need businesses and infrastructure to support the volume of visitors that we're getting in Clearview Township.
no kidding, and we're getting a lot, that's for sure. Well, that's great. I mean, and thank you, Judith, for bringing that up, because yeah, it is a good point. Does this committee, as an economic development committee, recognize that type of input that they're making to the business community by having this proposal go forward in a positive light? So thank you for bringing that up. All right, anybody else with any new business?
Yeah.
One more, go ahead.
I just thought we should bring up the issue of cannabis retail sales.
Yes.
As you know, this committee recommended that Chase go to council, which he did. He came and did his presentation and did that. And at that time, we just, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor, we deferred it or referred it. I can't remember. I think we deferred it.
The recommendation was that this committee, the Economic Development Committee, recommended to council that they consider a survey. Council then took that recommendation and asked staff to prepare a report on how a survey could work. What are the how the survey would actually roll out. What's the parameters on the pros and cons of styles of surveys, internet surveys, mail-in surveys, et cetera. And council then received that report and supplement to that made a recommendation that we're not going to proceed with a survey on this question. So there you go. John, you got anything you want to add? It was your report. You might as well speak to it. And you're muted. There we go.
There we go.
Sure.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, the report basically was just seeking council's feedback on, they wanted to know the different types of surveys and the cost of each. So what we did is we put together everything from, a Survey Monkey sort of tool to a direct mail to homes, and using the regular postal service, and then a phone polling system that we would call as many residents as possible, and laid out the different prices, estimates basically for each one, and basically said, if council, if you're going to proceed in conducting a survey, which survey would you like to use? And the options were put forward. One option was moved to be put forward, and it was voted down. And because of that, the issue died on the floor, so to speak. Doesn't mean the council can't make a decision on retail cannabis. Council decided not to have a survey.
And that was the general consensus that we haven't had a whole lot of luck with surveys. We typically do surveys on everything and we get like 300 people responding, and it's not a true, it's just not a true, and we're lucky if we get that. We're not even getting 10% of the public responding to stuff. So it sort of has become a moot point. I'm doing surveys with the public, and what we find is the best thing to do is prepare a motion, which is where I'm leaning towards, is prepare a motion to either accept or not accept cannabis sales, and then trust me, the public will let us know. We will get invaded with the emails and responses once we put a motion on the floor. Yes.
Yes, John, go ahead.
Yeah, and one other thing too is that, and everybody here may be aware, but a key factor in I think giving a little bit of indigestion for council and or the community is the way it's set up is that once you approve cannabis retail, you can't not approve it, and it's applicable in all your commercial zones. So once you vote it in, you can't stop the amount or possibly the competition that could occur with other areas in your community. So you could have several cannabis retails being placed in commercial districts around Clearview Township. And once you opt in, you can't opt out. But if you don't opt out, you can always opt in the future. So council is still, this is new to them in the sense that it's just been a year. I think they want to get a sense how people really feel about it from that perspective, meaning that it can occur in any of your commercial districts. And that's a piece of information that wasn't discussed at the last economic development meeting, I don't believe, economic advisory committee meeting. And it was something that was communicated in the very first meeting in which council decided at that time that they would not approve retail cannabis. At the time, they stated that we could always revisit and approve it in the future. But there's that piece of the requirements that it makes it difficult for a municipality in their planning, because it's already been determined that if you say yes, all you can do is allow them to come into your community. They have to meet certain setbacks and other matters, but they're allowed to come into any part of your commercial districts. So I just thought I'd pass that along. That was part of the thing that I believe gave council a bit of indigestion.
Well, John, there's a lot of things that give council indigestion, and that is just one of them. So it's all about having a better diet, isn't it? Of materials that we have to consume as councillors and mayors. So anyway, yeah, go ahead, Bill. Yeah, please do.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing mainly on the media that in other municipalities where they've allowed this, and I guess Toronto, Vaughan,
Sega
anywhere
Beach.
else, things have
Boom out.
popped up everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're saying, let the fittest survive. I'm not sure that's a good idea.
And again, these are the regulations that are presented to us by the province of Ontario when it comes to how they want to
Yeah.
manage retail operations. And so it's it really puts your municipal staff, the people in the bylaw department or in the planning department, puts them in a hard spot. It certainly puts council in a difficult position because council then has to make a decision whether they want to permit them or want to continue to have a prohibition in place. And so it's a difficult one for sure. But as an economic development committee, we're always interested to hear your opinion. And then so if you have any comments or you want to send it in, I would encourage you to send it in, whether as an individual or put forward a motion at this table. I mean, it's easy to do that too. So it is still going to remain a challenge. And part of my comments as the mayor, as I pointed out to members of council before we did make that vote, was that this question will not go away until such time as council makes a decision to support cannabis retail. Because once we support, then as John pointed out, you can't go back. So we're always going to be asked to do it because there may be business interests and people who want to have those type of businesses, whether they be like that young entrepreneur Chase or not. I mean, there are other people obviously who are interested, but it's a matter of whether this community and the business community can appreciate that every commercial space that's available could easily be consumed or taken up with cannabis retail facilities, rather than creating that diversity of retail operations in our downtown cores. And so it's a hard spot because so many of our storefronts remain empty, right? Because businesses come and go, and that's sort of the nature of some small businesses. But you don't want to see 5 of them line the main street of Stayner, and yet that technically could happen. You could literally have 5 stores side by side on the main street of Stayner. So it helps the business community for sure, keeps them busy, the storefronts full, but is it actually contributing to the overall economic health of the business community? So your input is appreciated. So if anybody's got any comments, either write them down, send them in, or bring forward emotions at this table. All right. Nothing further on the cannabis discussion. That's good. Is anybody else got any other new business items?
I just would like to bring up the speed. You and I talked about it, and Barry and I
Yes,
talked
Judith.
about it.
Yeah,
The
for sure.
speed limit reduction proposal. If we see any economic pros or cons to that as a group. Any
Please go right
thoughts?
ahead. Sure, go right ahead, Judy.
I
Judith?
want to know what other people are thinking. I see it as detrimental for our tourist traffic. But I'm wondering about other people's opinions.
Okay. Has anybody got any comments they want to pro or con to the move that council is looking at right now and speed reductions?
I don't know about it.
Okay. Heather, on our council agenda, we had a workshop about traffic management across the entire township. Council received a pretty extensive report from our engineering firm, and several motions were put forward by members of council to bring forward reductions in speed to a couple of roads. And it should be no surprise to anybody, but Fairgrounds Road and the sixth line, basically from County Road 91 towards Creemore, are the sort of the targeted roads at this time to have those speeds reduced from 80 kilometers down to 60 kilometers.
I need to get to work.
Yeah, I know, exactly. And so, and that's kind of what Judith was talking about.
Yeah.
But just to review, so we all know, the process is not that the decision has been made. It has not been passed as a bylaw. So council still has several steps they have to go through, to actually make this happen if council decides to do it. The primary one, of course, is to hear from members of the public who are both pro and con of this issue. And so that's important to all of us as decision makers. But the mechanics of getting there would include a budget presentation. So John, our CAO, will tell you, our staff in the roads department have to prepare a budget to make this change. So they will have to spend taxpayers' dollars to actually assemble the signage and put them in effectively and create a maintenance program to maintain signs, et cetera, to actually change the speed. Then there's a bylaw that would have to be passed by council in a council meeting to actually change the speed technically from the 80 to 60 or what other speed it could change to. So there's several steps before it actually happens. And the budget to do it, you know, it's frankly, it's not cheap. It's not as simple as it appears to just go put up a sign. They're expensive, and they're expensive because there's maintenance level that has to be provided to them, and they have to be, you know, correctly installed, et cetera. So these aren't something, you know, we just go out with a shovel and dig it into the ground. There's a proper way to actually do it. So it costs money to actually do it. So anyway, Heather, that's kind of the outline of what's happened. I would not be surprised if the motions do not go through to their end. Personally, I would not be surprised one bit, because there's a lot of steps that council has to consider, and there's certainly a lot of input that we're receiving from members of the public about a pushback on the decision to actually do the speed reduction. So I would not be surprised one bit if it doesn't happen. So.
Right. So back to Judith's question is, I don't see how it's going to make a difference. I still don't think, even if you did reduce it, that people are going to follow it. I travel that road daily. So, well, one of those daily. I think the only benefit would be for our cycling tourists. It makes it safer for them, but that's probably it.
That was certainly part of the discussion, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's favored road, what I see.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Just as another road too that I didn't mention in my first comment was that the 10th line, if you went from County Road 124 all the way to basically 6th Street, you know, right on the west side of the township, that road is mostly under construction right now with the 10th line reconstruction going on around County Road 91. That piece of road will already be reduced to 60 kilometers per hour as per the construction project. So the construction that's going on there right now, after it's done, that road will already be 60 kilometers per hour. Part of the discussion we had as council in this workshop was that we would make it 60 from 124 all the way to 91, and then from the 3031 side road all the way to basically 6th Street in Collingwood would be 60 kilometers. So the entirety of the 10th line is sort of moving in the direction of being a 60-kilometer road. And there's a lot of discussion about that. It's not specifically about the economics of impacting businesses. It's more about trying to influence the GPS rerouting of people that are trying to access Blue Mountain Resorts. Because currently what's happening is the GPS is taking people into Singhampton, taking them down the 10th line, which is a local dirt road at times, all the way to Blue Mountain Resorts, and showing it as a shortcut. Well, if you reduce the speed on it and actually post it and legally post it through the GPS system as a lower speed, it changes the time algorithm on how you set in your GPS. So it'll make you drive your GPS. It'll take you out onto 124 rather than traveling on the 10. And actually, we've got some evidence of that right now because the road is closed for construction. Obviously, everybody's getting rerouted. Yeah. So it's already happening. But anyway, that's another side of the argument, but it doesn't, I hope I'm not trying to confuse things, Judith, but I hear you.
And I live in an area that has a seasonal reduced speed, so I live in the town of Blue Mountains in the North Winds Beach area on Highway 26. They reduce the speeds there seasonally. I think from an 80 to a 50. And then that happened year one. Year two, I guess it wasn't favorable. So they increased it again to from an 80 to, or from 50 to 60. So, I mean, I could see that happening in our area too, is they make a change and then they'd have to make another change based on comments and concerns within the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks, Heather. Bill or Judith, do you want to add anything to this?
The concerns I've seen in different discussions is the impact on your township small business, your service providers doing deliveries, your fuel companies, garbage trucks, first responders. Can they get to the fire department? Like your rural volunteer firefighters that need to get to the station because the fire truck can't leave the station until you get there. Are they going to be reduced in speed? Because legally they're not supposed to speed. I know they do, but legally they're not supposed to. What's it adding to the time for Collingwood Fuels and the time for Ed Limegaard to get to and from a job, for Hamilton Brothers to deliver? Is that significant? Has that been considered? Like they're working on those rural roads, so they have no choice but to drive them. Is that an impact we need to consider? Is it something from a tourist transport issue? Are people in Collingwood heading back to Toronto on a Sunday, want to take the leisure way down, have lunch in Creemore, going to change their mind? You know, if there are speed traps set up, are they going to get tickets? They're going to say, no, we're going to go on Airport Road. And then all of a sudden they fly through Cashtown Corner and say, oh, forgot to turn into Creemore. Let's keep going. Is that an issue? I don't know.
Yeah.
Then the flip side of that is the safety. I think a lot of people are thinking that the reason for it is safety, and you consider the cyclists and different things. I don't think posting a lower speed limit is going to influence people to slow down. You're going to see more aggressive driving, more unsafe passing, because the people that are trying to abide by it isn't going to be the majority. You're still going to have those people flying by at the high speeds and being more aggressive on their passing. So I don't know, it's a hard weighing that choice, but that's
it's a
what I'm
tough one.
hearing.
It's a tough call, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. It's very tough, Judith, for sure it is. And council needs to consider all these points.
Yeah.
And so, you know, again, much like this cannabis discussion we just had,
Yeah.
if you've got a comment or so on, send it into council for sure. Or if you have something you want to bring up at this committee, you know, it's the best thing about having this committee is that you have the resources of a staff person who's obligated to take forward any recommendations to council for their consideration. So.
And County Road 9's proposal reduction that has already been sent to Simcoe County is then you've landlocked Creemore to 60 kilometers. You cannot get into Creemore. If everything passes, you can't get into Creemore above 60 kilometers an hour.
That a
Is that
bad thing? I said, is that a bad thing? I'm not sure. You know, that's such a bad thing that entering into Creemore is at 60 kilometers is a bad thing. Now, I totally understand where you're coming from, Judith, and they're tough decisions. It's like, you know, and then we also think about the liability, you know, like when, you know, there's a lot more traffic on the road than there used to be. Let's face it, that we're all knowing that all our facilities, the, you know, the Niagara Escarpment, all our parks, everything, you know, the volume of traffic has just tripled. It's just amazing how much traffic there is on the road now. But then we got all the extra bicyclists now, and then we've got all the, you know, the pedestrians who want to hike and that stuff. So safety issue really plays a part of it. And I've said it in the past, I'm not a big fan of reducing speed limits. But from a liability point of view, you know, somebody gets hurt or something, guarantee the township ends up getting involved, whether it's, you know, nothing to do with us or not. There's a thing called joint and several liability, and the mayor and I can relate to that, because if person A is coming around County Road 9 on a bend and hits, you know, vehicle B and maims them for the rest of their life, and vehicle A only had $1 million in insurance, but the courts award him $2 million or $3 million. Guess who they come after for the other balance? They come after us, and you know, we end up paying out money for accidents had nothing to do with us, but because it happened on our road, and you know, the courts awarded big things, and you know, it's we see it all the time, don't we, your worship? And it's a big issue at our conferences we go to. Yeah.
Well, for sure, joint and several liability continues to be an ongoing problem, because we're a government and we're a public agency and we own public assets and
Like
people,
roads.
yeah, like roads, and people have accidents and have claims, and we're not, in any way a part of the accident in any way other than we happen to own the property, but because we're a government and, they make us responsible for the financial damages that come out of it, not the actual physical damages. So I don't know if you guys are all aware about that, but it does happen. I mean, you might hear of people, tripping on sidewalks and suing the township. It happens. And as a mayor, I never even hear about those lawsuits because they're just handled administratively by the town and by our lawyers. And we get a report once a year about activities from our staff, but we're not part of that. But it continues to cost us a lot of money in taxpayers' dollars. So I can understand Barry's point of view about joint and several. I'm unsure whether or not reducing the speed would actually support defending a joint and several claim, given that engineering studies show that the road should be at 60 should be at 80 or 50. Those are the two speeds that are clearly identified as road design speeds. So making those changes does change the actual parameters of the level of responsibility. So it's a more complicated, difficult issue. But back to the point that I think, Judith, you're trying to bring up is that, will this actually impact businesses in our community? And so that's something I'd like to hear from members of our committee or members of the community. If there are concerns about reducing the speeds on some of these, roads that are owned by the municipality, will it actually impact business? And that's what we need to hear from.
One comment I am getting, if you're not in the trucking industry or if you have to have a yellow sticker, a CVOR for your business, if any of your drivers get a speeding ticket, your CVOR is affected, so your insurance rates go up. Your risk of, losing that employee of yours may not be able to be insured under your license, under your policy. So now you've got businesses that have been in this community and driven these roads for 40 years, and the speed limit's going to go from 80 to a 50 or a 60. You're right in that zone where you could be charged with reckless.
Yeah.
And lose your license and pull your plates. And there's a lot of guys that are scared. There are already guys that are avoiding County Road 91 heading east out of Duntroon. They're taking the dirt roads instead because they know coming down that hill, it's their habit. They're going to just let the truck speed up naturally. And all of a sudden they're over the legal limit and they're going to get pulled over and get a ticket because there's been speed traps set there. So now they're going on the dirt roads. So are we forcing people to go to alternatives instead of leaving us on the roads that are made to handle the traffic?
It's a complex issue. It's a complex, and again, my whole point of the joint and several liability was all about safety. That's why I keep saying the safety issue. The more we can do to make our roads safe for all users of the road, right? And we have a lot of users of our roads that are not local people, that are not local businesses, that are not, and quite aware of that. And that's part of the problem, is there is a lot of people who are, whether they're tourists, bicycle tourists, hiking tourists, whatever, who are using our roads. And quite frankly, it is inconveniencing some of our local residents. I'm not saying all, but some, and it's tough decisions to make. It's how do you deal with it?
Judith, I'd like to say one more thing, and that is in regards to this decision that has to be made. Whether it goes in favor or whether it doesn't, I look at it right now that the community is talking about speed and people are much more aware of it. And I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed people are driving a little bit slower these days. I think that we're not seeing the insane 120 kilometer per hour ripping down the center line road, that like we used to. And I don't know if it's just because there's a lot of talk about it. I know that the OPP have been activating their traffic unit. So they are more sort of around our community. Certainly, since the county changed that piece up there at Duntroon that you mentioned, they have been sitting there. And, you know, in their work, in their line of work, it's find a good fishing hole and go fishing. You know, it's kind of what they do. So I can appreciate that coming down that hill, you can accelerate. And so that's why the OPP are there, because they see that. And so they're not there all the time, that's for sure. But they are there enough that it's causing people to either slow down or they're getting themselves a ticket. We just simply can't afford the amount of OPP officers necessary to actually enforce the traffic laws across Clearview Township. We can't. And we're already spending a pile of money in our budget every year for the services that we get. And believe me, the OPP have a lot of operational problems in even just getting staffing levels to where they should be as prescribed by the Ontario Police Commission. So it's an ongoing battle, and it's very, very complicated for sure. So I'm appreciative that people are talking about it, and I think council needs to hear more from members of the public about this. So you know, if you're speaking to people, Judith, in your business, or Bill or Heather, encourage them to reach out and speak to your councillors about this. If they feel that speed's an issue, we want to hear, because that'll assist council, particularly when they go to the budget process, which is coming up here in another month. Well, another couple of weeks, I guess. We're doing our budgets, and so you know, we have to make some pretty tough financial decisions on behalf of taxpayers. We also have to make some operational decisions about operating these roads like this. So there's a lot to this. And so I really look forward to hearing from people on this issue, but I'm glad people are talking about it.
There will be a group on your agenda for next week's meeting.
That's right. I had a talk with Eric about that already today. So
yeah.
I'm glad he likes to talk. I like talking to Eric on the phone.
We need to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks, Judith, for bringing it up. And again, if there's anybody on the committee has any comments on it, please feel free to send it in. Has anybody else got any new business items for economic development discussion? I just want to mention a COVID discussion. Obviously, you know, every 20 minutes, the rules change at the province. And so the good news is our recreational facilities, our arenas are up and running to their full capacity, but we still want people to maintain their social distancing and you know, mask wearing and hand sanitizing, et cetera. So that's the good news. That keeps that kind of thing moving along. It also allows us to have Santa Claus parades. So parades are happening this year, which is a great thing. And so Heather, I hope that your folks down there at Creemore Springs are going to have another awesome float.
Oh, yeah. Already started the chats on parades and
Okay.
experienced the facilities last night. Was curling last night. So all this COVID protocol stuff has been great.
Good.
Everybody's following and participating, and life seems like it's slowly going back to normal.
Well, that's good. Well, I hope that that helps businesses in our community too. So I'm glad to hear that. You know, I mean, as people,
I have a parade question.
Yes,
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Heather, are we allowed to hand out candy?
Ooh, good question.
I think there is a no candy thing. I got to confirm that. We were talking about that with the BIA, but I believe Amanda Murray with Clearview Township has the rules set out for the Ontario parades. I think it's an Ontario provincial rule. So we can look at that and share that with businesses.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Posted on the Discover Clearview website. I can talk to Amanda for that.
Perfect. Bill,
Well,
I think
if it's a no, then my staff is going to get 2,000 chocolate bars, but
you'll have a basket set up on the countertop, right?
yeah, I had to grab them before Halloween was over, right? So
Oh, there you go. Bill, go ahead.
oh, he's muted.
I was muted, sorry. As a kinsman, and of course, running the parade, we spoke to our insurers about this candy thing. And what the guy told me, and I'm not sure he knew, but he gave me an answer. He said, if you have a candy and you hand it to little Johnny on the street, that's okay, but you can't toss it.
Well, that was a rule before COVID.
That was
That's a pre-COVID rule for sure.
That was when, remember their MP chuck candy and it hit a kid in the head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember that, Heather. Yeah. Well, Bill, I tell you what, I know that Amanda pays very close attention to these rules. And I haven't seen that to me, but I think John or Jen Kane Percy. Jen, did you get an update on that? Because I think you mentioned to me about chocolates too.
Yeah, Amanda had mentioned that, but I've already ordered the chocolate as well, just like
Oh,
Judith.
isn't that too bad?
Well,
We've
what
got
will we
lots of
do with all
chocolate.
that?
I mean, if you can, I know where you can get rid of that.
Yes, I'll be coming by your desk, Jen, and getting handfuls of it of you.
Awesome.
I am a chocolate freak.
There's
Okay.
got to be something. There's got to be something like there was last year. If it's not allowed that, so last year we could do it if we weren't delivering it by hand. So people had it coming out of chutes and stuff as we were walking around.
Yeah.
As a mobile, back to the regular traditional way of parades, it will be either a hard no or a version of handing out, which we'll figure that one out.
Cool.
Well, you know, I'm the first one to break that rule because I'm very happy to hand out candies at the parade, but let's hope that
Yeah.
we get a clarity on that. And
Yeah. What's
Maybe
the point of
Jen-
the parade if you don't get a candy?
well, you know, there's a lot to that. I mean,
Candy cane
Like-
at midnight.
yeah. Anyway, okay, well, hopefully we'll get some clarity across the community, and I'm sure between Bill, you guys at the Kinsman Club, and Heather, you and your colleagues at the BIA will have a great, safe parade, and that'll help celebrate our community. So keep up the
We'll
good
do it
work
the
there,
right
volunteers.
Is.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, again, also the COVID thing was just really great to hear that we're able to get back together, and let's hope that we have a good winter and we get into a full spring. You know, get to the farmers markets again. That'd be great. That's what I'm always appreciative of. All right, you guys, is there anything further for new business? Anybody else? No, nothing special, nothing outstanding. I just want to acknowledge that I participated along with our Chamber of Commerce in the Wasaga Beach Chamber of Commerce Mayor's Conference. We had a little discussion of mayors from around Simcoe County. We had, I don't know, we had about 7 or 8 mayors on there, and members of the Chamber of Commerce were also participating in it for each of the communities, and sort of gave a bit of an update on what's going on in businesses. And I shared, of course, that this committee has been reestablished and restarted, and we're off and running. And I mentioned the hotel survey work that Jen has been doing. And so anyway, we're really happy that we're able to participate and share a little bit about that. So that was one little thing that I did just recently on behalf of the committee. Okay, is there anybody else with any other business for the Economic Development Committee? Jen, you're not seeing anybody else trying to join our meeting, so okay, that's too bad. All right, well, we're going to call our next meeting. So, you know, our meeting schedule gets missed around a little bit. We are supposed to have a meeting in December. We can take a look at the calendars and see if there's any items that we need to discuss, and make a decision perhaps, you know, in the first week of December, whether we'll have a meeting in the second or third week. Does that sound reasonable to folks, or do you want to just push to January?
I
Looking for
suggest
your
push to
advice.
January. That would be my suggestion. Push to
Okay.
January.
Bill, Heather, sound good to you?
It doesn't matter to me. December's fine. January doesn't matter.
Judith, what's your thought?
No plans here, so whatever.
All right. I'll tell you what, I will leave it in the hands of our trusted administrative assistant, Jen Kane Bursey, and she will come up with an answer for us. Okay?
Sounds good.
And we'll share that. We'll share that with all the other members who are not present tonight. Okay. So at this point, then I can call for the adjournment. Recommendation be it resolved, Clear Economic Development Advisory Committee adjourned tonight at 5:19 p.m. Can I have a mover? Bill, seconded by Mr. Burton. All those in favor. Thank you. And have a good evening, and thank you very much, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Great, thanks.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Good evening, everybody. Stay